Welcome, everyone, to episode 210 of Just Joshing. I'm your host, Joshua Pantelleresco. I write stuff and podcast too. Today, my guest is Jason Lavelle. This has been a bit overdue. Jason and me had this conversation originally back in July, so it's been a while. He was really nice enough, though, when I had a bunch of interviews that I did originally on Skype screwed up, and he was one of the ones that was nice enough to redo this. So it's kind of like, it's an older conversation, but it's also a new conversation as well. Jason, I'm oddly proud of him, and it's because Jason and I actually had a little chat on his show. Me and Tim Chismar were guests on Spilling In. We were talking about getting out of our comfort zones. And I have literally been watching Jason interview people now at conventions and starting to come out there and come out of the show, because Jason's a heck of a dude. He really, really is. He's very personable. He's fun to be around, and I know, that personality would definitely be very friendly to people. So I'm watching him and Katie Salidas take Spilling Ink on the road. I'm really proud of both of them, but Jason in particular, I know this is a big step for him. So we're going to get to that conversation in just a second. I also want to make a little announcement here. This podcast is now available on Spotify. That's right. So Google Play, Spotify, iTunes. I'm on all the major platforms now, and I kind of feel really good about that. It's been a really, really cool ride, this podcast, this last little bit, and I'm going to get into more detail at the end of the show. But for now, let's get to that conversation with Jason Lavelle, shall we?
I turned the recorder on. It's oddly enough, you're not the only person I've really just confessed that before, but it's okay. Oh my god.
Alright, so tell me when you want to get started.
I've officially turned the recorder on. It's on now. So if you got anything incriminating, well, you kind of already said you're incriminating things, so I don't know if I should actually ask that again. I think I actually will start with something I probably, maybe shock you. I'm actually pretty proud of you. You've done a lot of getting outside your comfort zone, and I think when we last talked, you were just getting started, but you actually have done it. So how's it been for you?
Going to the conventions and stuff?
Yeah.
It was. You know me. I'm a really high anxiety guy, and I play it really cool in front of the camera and when I'm talking to people, but in this little ball of nervous energy, like, oh my god, I'm going to mess everything up. So when you and Tim had told me that you need to just get your ass out there and start living, start doing things that make you uncomfortable, because that's going to propel you forward and help you become better at all the things that you want to do in life. I really took that to heart, because I see you two guys, and we're not all that different in age. I think I'm a few years older than you, and Tim and I are probably close, but I'm like, you know what, I'm nearly 40 now, and I've got stuff that I haven't done with my life that I really want to do. And so when these opportunities come up to go to Comic-Con and attend with press credentials, which I was really fortunate to get, I was like, heck yeah, man, I've got to do this. And my wife is really instrumental in getting me through my craziness, because she knows when to leave me alone. She knows when I need some encouragement. She knows when to put the smack down on me and say, hey, get your head out of your ass and do this. Yeah, so Heather went along with me to Ace Comic-Con in Chicago, and we didn't get to interview a lot of celebrity guests, unfortunately. I got signed on for the convention a little late in the game, so everybody's schedules were already packed. I was able to interview Jim Starlin and Angelique Roche, who was fantastic to talk to. But you know what? I left the event feeling good. I didn't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna puke, or oh my god, I need to recover from this. Aside from my feet being sore, it was good. And I got home, and the next day I emailed 2 more conventions here in the Midwest, asking for press credentials. I'm like, I'm going to do this again. I'm getting hooked on this.
Well, it's a good way of getting yourself out there, right? And you meet people, and what you're going to find as you keep doing this is no one's really that different. It's just, everybody's pursuing their own thing and doing the best they can, and everybody's just kind of trying to, help each other out a little bit. By and large, I'm not going to say it's every celebrity you're going to meet or every creator, but by and large, that's what they are. So do you want to know you want me to tell you how I got the interview with Spider Robinson?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so I had this opportunity to interview there's another author at this convention that I really wanted to interview because I'm a fan of his writing. I'm not going to name names, but his writing is better than his personality. We'll just leave it at that, right? And so we'll just leave it at that, right? And in all fairness to that writer, though, I can understand why he was irked in some ways. There are some things the convention should have done that they didn't, like make sure some of his books were there. I get that, but that all said, so I'm going to the Aurora ceremony to get my pin. Like, that was all I was expecting, was to get this pin. Right, the first time you're nominated for the Aurora, you get this pin. And so I'm right there in the appearance, and walks by Spider Robinson. It's like, hey, Spider, come get your new pin. So Spider Robinson comes in and gets his new pin, and I shake his hand. It's like, wow, I just met Spider Robinson. This is cool. So I go to his concert. He does a Beatles tribute concert, right? And it's really cool. Like, even though some songs he doesn't quite hit anymore because he's in his 70s now, still, it was just a fun experience. So the next day, he's checking out, and we need help with directions. So I'm just right there. So I help him with directions, and I just ask him, hey, listen, would you like to, I do a podcast, would you mind doing it? Yeah, sure. Gives me his phone number, gives me his email. and goes, yeah, call me in about a week or so. Contact me, we'll set up a time. So, yes, I literally feel like I got rejected by a hot chick only to find a hotter one. Does that make sense?
That makes, you know what? That makes sense, man. I like it.
Yeah.
Really like it. And you know, when I was getting ready for that Comic-Con in Chicago at Ace, I was emailing back and forth with the PR director, who was fantastic, by the way. She made the experience amazing.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get in some time to talk to Matt Smith and Karen Gillan, who were the stars of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And we really wanted to speak with them. And she said, unfortunately, they're not available. They don't have time in their schedules. I said, okay, all right. And I started looking through the list of creators, and Angelique Rocher was on there, and she is
very good,
a fantastic podcast host. Yeah, she's great. And so I found her on Twitter, and I actually sent her a tweet that said, hey, would you mind if I sent you a message? That in itself probably sounds creepy, but she was cool with it. So I sent her a message and said, hey, I'm come to this event as press, and I'd really like to sit down and chat with you. I love your podcast because I listen to her Marvel's Voices podcast. And she was like, yeah, that's cool, man. Just, meet me somewhere by the main stage. She didn't give me a time or a day or anything. So I'm like, okay. So we're just wandering around the convention, and we're going up by the main panel stage, and I look over, and there's this crazy biker-looking chick sitting up there by the stage, and I was like, that's Angelique. So went over, said hi, gave her a hug. She was like, yeah, here's my number. Just shoot me a text in a couple hours. We're gonna make this thing happen. And she ended up being just the coolest person to sit down and talk with, and I really appreciate it. And I was like, you know what? I might not have gotten to, do a 5-minute interview with Celebrity X or Celebrity Y, but I got to sit down and chat with this amazing creator for an hour, and it was the same kind of thing where it's like, I may have lost out on this, but I think I gained something even better by being able to talk to somebody in the same business we're in, and really gain some knowledge from her.
Well, that's just it. Like, sometimes it's right place, right time, and The only thing I tell you, next time you get a chance, if there's a celebrity you really, really want to interview, even though they may say they're not available, introduce yourself. It's actually, it's just, you go, hey, I'm a fan. And ask them. You can just ask them. I mean, if they tell you they can't, they can't. I mean, that's totally fine, right? But you ask them. You make a point to introduce yourself and make a good impression. Some of those guys, like I said, majority of celebrities are cool. The majority of them. And what you'll find is if you approach them like a human being, they will react accordingly. So that's just. But it sounds to me like It sounds to me like this was a good experience for you all the way around.
Well, I feel like I'm growing as a person, and I like that. But for the next convention, I need to borrow your testicles for the next convention so that I've got the balls to go and talk to some of these people. I'll give them back, maybe.
No, just say hi, man. It's okay. Well, that's the first on this podcast. I've never had someone ask for my testicles before. I mean, not in that regard, anyway. Well, we've gone there. So what the hell? It's just it's just. At the end of the day, this is how I look at this. I mean, I do get shell shocked by fame sometimes, right? I mean, we all do. But then you got to remember at the end of the day that I actually got. This was the best advice I had from my dad. I interviewed Rob Sawyer, and there was for the first 5 minutes in that interview, and I can tell this, I was very hesitant with him. Not because he's a bad guy, but because he's a big name, and there was for about 5 minutes I was intimidated by that, and then I was like, okay. Let's really get into the back and forth. It was a good interview, right? But I regret that first 5 minutes a little bit because I didn't let myself, because in this place, in whatever this interview zone we're in, we're on the same level. Because now it's just two human beings talking to each other. And that's how I approach every interview. We're two human beings, you have a story, let's talk about it. And that's kind of my approach. And what I find is more often than not, I get to talk. Now, my worst interview I've ever done on this podcast actually has to do with a Star Trek celebrity. I'm not going to name names again. You can look in the episode and you can find out why. It just that was a horrible experience. But then there's other ones like Garrett Wang's really cool. I am friends with different people who've done different parts and celebrities and stuff like that. Most of them are just fun people. Some of them are a little nuts, but they're fun people.
Well, you said that the one that had gone bad, it was a Star Trek celebrity. You said? Yeah.
No, I'm not going to name names because I really don't. I don't want to slam the person. Again, this isn't about slamming.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Of course, I just wasn't sure that I'd heard you right. There's actually I just got awarded press credentials for a Comic-Con here in West Michigan, in
Grand Rapids?
2 weeks, and yeah, in Grand Rapids.
Okay, that's a cool convention. That's a really cool convention.
Yeah. And there's one of the guys, the guy who originally played Chekhov is going to be there.
He's cool.
And, I think there's somebody else from the original series, but I'll have to pull up the page again. But speaking of Star Trek, I mean, are you a Star Trek fan at all, or no?
Oh yeah, I love the show. I love it. My favorite show is Next Gen, but I like the original. I love DS9 too.
Okay. Now, what about the new movies, the brand new reboots? What do you think?
I haven't had a chance to see. I love the new the Star Trek series, the one that came. I like that one. It's a very fun homage to the original show, and it's done.
Well, the movies, not the series. Have you seen the new movies?
Star Wars Light. That's how I actually describe them. They're Star Wars Light. They're fun. They're a lot of fun, but they don't have the cerebral quality the older Star Treks had. One of the things I love about Star Trek, like Star Wars is cool. I'm actually one of those people that likes both. But Star Wars in its own concept works. But the thing is, Star Trek always had a bit of a morality. Like, good science fiction, in my view, tends to have, isn't always about good and evil. Sometimes it's about two very good or very bad choices you have to make, the characters have to make. And it's understanding the pros and cons, right, of said stories and why you do what you do. Like, like Star Trek was big thing was the Prime Directive. So, one time while out doing this, I mean, there was this one story where this little girl that meets Data just via subspace frequencies and channels, and he's not supposed to do that. He's Prime Directive, not to get involved and stuff. But he said hi, and then there's this disaster on the planet, and now the Enterprise knows of this disaster, so the Prime Directive says they're not supposed to get involved because it could damage a culture. But on the flip side, the culture's about to die. So they can't ignore this anymore. So there's a really clever, they have to really think about the morality and the choices they're making, and it's always smart stuff. Whereas if you watch the movies are fun. They're entertaining. But I still think the first one, why did you blow up Vulcan? Made no sense to me to blow up Vulcan. It's like, why? Right? And it didn't do anything other than the sense of the director could do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It makes sense. And I really enjoy the first two of the new movies, and it's because I like the characters a lot. I like the acting. Mm-hmm. I thought the visual effects were all beautiful, and I thought they did a great job. It's different than the old one. However, there's a lot of, it's almost like a companion to the old one because we're running in an alternate reality, and I like the little Easter eggs that pop in there from the old series. So, I don't know. I think that I like the new ones.
You like the new ones? You like the new ones better? There's nothing wrong with that if you do.
I think that I do like the new ones better.
Yeah, there's nothing.
However, it's tough to say because the old ones are what got me hooked to begin with. So I don't know.
Well, no, dude, it's cool if you like the new ones more. It's like, dude, I'm just like strictly speaking for me. I think that they're, again, nothing to do with the acting, nothing to do with the effects, anything like that. It's fun. But I more akin it to Star Wars than the original Star Trek in terms of the stakes, the plot. It's a great adventure series, the new one. It's a really fantastic adventure series. It homages the original quite well and in some cool spots. I like the new Khan, for example. I love Khan. Like, he's fun. He's fun in this one.
Yeah, Khan is awesome in the new one. I like Benedict.
Yeah. So, but on the same token, right, like, I do think they could have made it smarter. And I think that's the part where I'm like, the old ones are better that way. New ones are more polished, though. So, it's not... if you like the new Star Trek, I won't hold it against you. At least not very much. So...
Well, you've got a point there, and that's a good point for me because I always tend to prefer things that are more polished. I really like that. Like we just started watching Doctor Who about a year and a half ago when a coworker insisted that actually she brought the DVDs to work and shoved them in my hand. I'm like, okay, now I have to watch Doctor Who, and I have fallen in love with the series. But at the same time, you can tell watching these that they're made with a television budget. And although they've got a high television budget, clearly because they do a great job, I keep thinking, man, I'd really love to see, this on a, $100 million movie budget. I think it would just blow my mind. Oh. But at the same time, I think that you'd lose some of the quirkiness that makes Doctor Who so fun.
Well, some people think like no budget constrains creativity. It's actually the opposite. if you look at creativity, one way a lot of people don't look at creativity in general is problem solving, right? You have X amount of budget to display this. You have X.
Yeah.
So what can we do now? Our goal is Y. So how can we convey Y with X? How can we do this? And one of the things I love when television's good. Now, when television's bad, it's just bad. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But when television's good, you'll find that the people that are working on the shows, that really put care and craft into it, are thinking of solutions to just their limitations, their problems. How can they create the presentation or presence that, or experience they're trying to convey perfectly? Doctor Who has, when I have seen it, does have a sense of whimsy to it. It's a really fun sense of whimsy. I'm not sure they ever would have found in a movie budget, right? So, and this is because it's the fact that they were on such a low budget that forced them to come up with these solutions a long time ago, and they work, right? And it's not like, I mean, how many years has Doctor Who been around? Like 30?
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
40.
Yeah. So that's my point, though, right? You're making my point for me, right? They long time ago when they developed the show, they had. I mean, imagine the show at the very beginning. There's no budget in the show. I mean, it's like any other show. They're taking a chance. They get X amount of dollars, and if it does well, they'll get more. That's how it works, right? And that's also one of the reasons why the actors changes, the actors and the actresses changes, because especially the new Doctor Who, because it's become a career launching point for some of these guys, right? So, but there comes a point where, right? So there comes a point when the show can't pay them what they're worth anymore, right? And that's part of the reason why there's always a new Doctor, because that's part of the concept behind it. I mean, just the practicality of it. You know, when that actor's been called to do some bigger roles, whether it's more bigger television roles, bigger movie roles, the show can't pay for it anymore. And this way, the way they did it is they have a way now. They have a way now to write each and every actor out of the show, right? And it launches that actor's career, and then they go back to the other guy and they maintain a certain X amount of budget, X amount of quality. So anyone coming up, it's an opportunity for them, and it's a vehicle to launch a bigger career, which is actually a rare thing. And if you think about that in television,
well, and that's a great point, and I hadn't really thought about it that way. You know, thinking about having, because you're limited on your budget, because you're limited on what you can do, you are forced to be more creative. You're forced to be more clever. And to be honest, I don't watch Doctor Who because I love because the special effects aren't great. You know, I don't watch Doctor Who because I know they're in these amazing big sound sets and have these cool props. But I watch it because I love the interactions between the characters, because those interactions are so well written and so clever that you get hooked. I just watched the very last Matt Smith episode the other day with my family, and I was crying. My wife was crying. And my 10-year-old daughter was crying. I mean, you're talking a huge age gap between and we are all loving the show, and we're pulling our eyes out because we know now we're going to lose that doctor, and we're going to be having a new doctor. I mean, and that's an amazing thing to be able to accomplish, to get your viewers or your readers to fall in love with your work.
So
that's a big deal.
So one of my favorite television series, like science fiction television series, is Babylon 5. It's a little dated now. It's a little bit dated, but that last episode made me cry big time. The final episode of that series is beautiful.
I don't remember that at all. Is Babylon? Who was the captain in Babylon 5?
Bruce Boxhunter, Captain Sheridan. So that show is an example of working within your budget to produce the biggest effects. It's a novel. It's the original. There would be no Buffy without that show, because that show did Buffy before Buffy did it, and I mean in terms of writing a cohesive story arc for an entire season. coming to a conclusion. And unlike, and also in some cases too, for example, the fact is Captain Sheridan isn't the original captain in the show. It's Michael O'Hare, Jeffrey Sinclair, and he only is there one season, the first season, right? They were able to deal with the narrative of changing characters, changing cast members. They wrote them in and out of the show, in some cases seamlessly, right? Some cases not so seamlessly, but that's the challenges of writing television. But they told a full story. Like, I mean, it is one of the most, it's one of the most well put together shows you ever see. They got canceled before their 5th season, so this is the only downside to the show. Because they got canceled, they were going to get canceled for 4 seasons instead of 5. They moved a lot of stuff from season 5 into season 4. And then it got renewed for season 5 on another network. So this is how season 5 kind of goes. Season 5 is the weakest one in terms of story arc, because you get your climax for everything at the end of season 4. Now they have like more stuff they do write about. There is one major plot line that gets resolved that he left dangling for the future. And it's a doozy when you get there, but that particular season is a little light on substance, and then ironically, we're gonna have a bigger budget, right? So it's how
That's weird.
No, it's just how it worked out. I mean, it just how it worked out because, again, he was forced creatively to get the majority of his story out for season 4. He left a couple threads for season 5. But whereas he would have had maybe another thread to really strengthen things up, so there would have been like maybe another 3 or 4 really strong episodes for season 5, right? Those episodes were in season 4.
Yeah.
So they weren't there. So like there's a few episodes in season 5 where you're kind of like, right? Because it's not. And ironically enough, the first episode of season 5 could also have been a series finale. Could have been. It's actually phenomenally good.
Oh, wow.
No, it's a really cool because the first episode of season 5 literally takes place 1 million years, goes over 1 million years of history. It's phenomenally well done, by the way. So, but that show to me is an excellent example of storytelling used to circumvent budget, and also keeps in mind too that creative limitations, or limitations like real world limitations, aren't necessarily a death knell with a television show. It's what you do with them, right? If you can't do it one way, there might be another. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and I think the best shows. I mean, I think that although again they might hate it at the time, because I certainly would hate it at the time, but I think that those initial constraints are actually kind of what make sometimes some of the wonderful brilliance we see today.
Well, now what can we learn from that as authors? Because you write books and I write books, and I'm on a strict budget, and I don't need money to put words onto my computer. However, there's a lot that comes after putting words on the computer. We've got to pay for our cover art, we've got to pay for our editing and our marketing, and there's just it's a lot of money. It's a big money business. So what can we do? Kind of taking that example of working on a low budget. How can we still get our work out there? And get it
Rule one. Okay, what are you going? What is important in your budget? And to me, always first and foremost is presentation. The presentation of your product, whatever it is. I don't skimp on covers. It's the one.
Yeah,
It's the one area where, because people are going. A lot of people. I think the biggest mistake the majority of my friends make, and I get why to some extent too. They go for stock stuff, which I don't completely dismiss, because there's some good stock stuff, and you can remake it and redo it in your own way, and a lot of authors do that. But because of all the contacts I made throughout the years, have friends in illustrating industries, so I go beg, borrow, steal, and all that stuff. Now I'll try different things as a result. That particular stuff I never skimp on, ever. I might not be able to pay who I'm asking full price, but sometimes I don't have to pay full price either, but I will pay. So I will pay for that. Marketing's for me is trickier. So as you well know, I'm becoming a lot more popular than I was before, and
just a little bit.
Yeah. I'm literally, like, as we're talking, I'm watching my Facebook. I just might make my announcement. I think I'm going to make myself just Josh in Media, and I put that on Facebook. And I'm just, before I put stuff on Facebook, I'd have like a half a dozen likes, right? With the exceptions of like birthdays or really big moments. Now I'm getting responses all the time. I could literally, I think, say anything right now, and I get big responses. This
That's awesome.
No, it's surreal, right? It's really surreal. So I'm at a point that people are kind of wondering what I'm going to do next, because I've accomplished something, and I don't take that for granted. So when I reveal the cover for Alice Zero, right, I know I'm going to get responses for that. Right, and I can build on it also because my show seems to be doing quite well as well. So and seems to be doing better as the weeks progress. We'll see if that trend continues. But if it does, holy shit, I'm onto something, right? And yeah. So that's kind of where I'm in this wonderful spot where I have built momentum for myself. So it's a little easier for me on the marketing end to plug my stuff, right? But for someone getting started, what I always try to tell people is, what makes you different? What can you do that makes you stand out? Because there's a million people. There is only one Jason Lavelle, right? And he is an awesome dude. If a little overly anxious sometimes. And right, but he's an awesome dude. So how can we convey that awesome dude?
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're right.
That's very sweet of you to say. However, if Google has taught me anything, there are many more Jason Lavelles out there.
Yes, but you are the Jason Lavelle. You gotta be the Jason Lavelle in the writing world. You are the. You're not a. You're the. Right. So the challenge you have then is, can you make yourself stand out? Well, in my case, I just try different stuff. This is what I do. I'm thinking of a book-board game combination. Why? Because why not? Like, I don't have that. Like, you can't do that. It's like, why can't I do that? Why hasn't this been done? It should be done. I'm doing it. And that's kind of how my mindset goes, right? And I just go for it. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, I'm not afraid to fail. And that's the other thing, too. I'm not afraid.
I think that you should go for a board game and book series, not just books.
No. Oh, I promise you, it is books, board game expansions, each and every time. I have it. So the first book, I'll tell you. First book, basic game. Just the basic cooperative game. Book 2, the variation of the game, which is the versus mode. So you have a cooperative for book 1, versus for book 2. Book 3, I expand the game. Book 4, I reveal the real boss. And that's serious.
I want this game.
Episode 200, if you haven't listened to it already, is actually a board game test run of the game.
Nice.
Yes.
That's awesome.
That's what I did.
Which episode is it? What number?
200. I thought that'd be a good 200.
Okay.
So, what I do, then this is how I look at marketing. The goal in marketing is to stand out. And there's a lot of ways you can do that, even without much of a budget. Different style covers, different presentation. Like I said, board game. Who does that? That's me. But right, and different presentations, different releases. Like something I've considered for my actual next novel, like my first novel when it comes out, is I want to serialize it. I can do this a number of different ways. Maybe I do an audio reading of it. So instead of doing it, maybe for during that time when the book's out, I'm going to create a second podcast that releases serial stories. And I release it serially as an audiobook. Maybe I do that. I can do that. Why can't it? Why shouldn't I do that? Does that make sense? And that's something I can do for nothing.
Well, here's something I want to ask you.
Yeah.
I have actually, and I was going to talk about this on the next episode of our show, but I'm writing. Well, I'm not writing. I'm going to start in November. I'm just outlining a book that, looking at the outline, is kind of the perfect setup for a serialized novel. However, I don't have any idea how the hell to do something like that. I mean, I keep thinking of Stephen King's The Green Mile.
That's not about. Okay, so let's assume. I talked about this a little bit on my podcast presentation at When Words Collide. So let's assume. So what you guys decide to do? Okay, if you're going to do an audio, like we're going to do this strictly from an audio perspective. Then we'll talk like written. If you're going to do an audio serial, you got to figure out how much time you want to do first and foremost, right? So say you want to do a 10-minute audio show. Not a long show, but enough time to grab people. So you literally, when you write, how you write it would be your main beat, whatever the main beat is. You develop the characters, how they interact with each other. Cliffhanger. Next episode, resolve cliffhanger. Beat, character arc, cliffhanger. Repeat. And you repeat that until you get to the very end.
Now, what do you do when you go to actually publish the book fair?
Okay. So
as a series of shorts.
Or you make it. Oh, so okay. That'd be the audio, right? The audio version. So if you do the written one first, what you could do is you could do the novel first, as you would do the novel, and you take the novel, and they get okay. That formula I just gave you, character arc, like the arc of scene, character development, cliffhanger. How can I take each chapter, or maybe even just a scene out of the book, right? How do I translate that into that basic formula for an audio? So your audio would be a serial, and your book would be another presentation altogether. It's like you're building two products. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I like it. I like the way that sounds.
Yeah. But what you do is you write your novel like you normally would, and then you're like, okay, I need to make this an audiobook, but I want to do a serial. So again, this is just a very basic concept, like beat, character arc, cliffhanger. So what's my beat in this scene? What's my character arc? And cliffhanger. And then the big thing about the character arc is, yeah, and you can do it like a classic narrator. You have a good voice for narration, like you really do. And you thank
you, Joshua.
Oh, you're welcome, Mr. Jason. But the big thing, the other big thing you got to remember too, and this is a little trick. I love pro wrestling. One of my favorite promos of all time is Jake the Snake Roberts. Interesting thing about Jake, he never raised his voice. He would actually get quieter as he got more dangerous. So he would force you to actually go lean in to listen to what he had to say. I realized if I want to do something with horror, that's what I would talk almost in a whisper. Because I know that would force people in, and when something happens, I raise my voice. You create like a story, like you lure them in, and then BAM!
Nice.
Right? Yeah. I'm a little sick that way.
I'm so devious.
I am. I am. You have the voice range, like, because you do write horror. You have a naturally quiet voice, right? Like you're quiet, like you sound very quiet, very soothing. So right, and so the natural thing for you read in that kind of monotone, and then when something happens, bam! Like you could really like, and that's what you want. That's the experience you want when you read an audiobook. You want someone to almost jump out of their chair. So, okay,
yeah. All right.
If you're doing horror,
maybe that's how I'll approach it then. Do the do the novel as a novel and do the audio as a serial.
Yeah, and like I said, but think in those terms, like how can I do this? And that might require you to go to your wife, go, okay, listen, this is what I'm thinking. I need help. Like what grabs you? And just ask her that. What's the stuff that really grabs you, right? And tell me, and then I'll use that as a basis for a bunch of episodes. And suddenly you have an audio series, Jason Lavelle's Mystery Theater, right? So, you know, you show up, you go, I'm your host, Jason Lavelle, and next thing you know, you're riffing on Hitchcock, and then you tell your own stories.
I like it.
Yeah.
And then maybe someday, if I behave myself, I'll end up like you.
I didn't behave myself. That's the whole my secret.
An award-winning podcaster.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I'm looking at it right now. I still don't believe it. It's good though. Oh no! It's just one of those things. Like I have a big ass trophy that says Aurora on it, and I'm like, didn't ask me, and it's just one of those things that just happened. I didn't even nominate myself. It just kind of went, oh, I'm a finalist, you say. Cool. It's an honor to be nominated. My name just got...
That's amazing, dude. Yeah. I am so... We're just... Kate and I both, we're so proud of you, man. You started your podcast small, and then all of a sudden you've just kind of climbed up the ropes, and here you are. Now you're the guy. Apparently,
because people keep coming to me. But I mean, my look, dude. Like I said, you're very personable. The only thing I have on you more than anything else is you're more anxious than you should be, and I know that's partially just you're nervous. But dude, you're fine. You'll be good. And just trust in yourself. And if you make a mistake, honestly, I've made a shit ton of mistakes on my podcast. I don't really worry about it. You learn and move on. I think the honest secret. The honest secret is, I think, just try to get better every time. You know what I mean? Just work on just trying to be the best you can. And if you can do that the whole way through, you take it seriously. Sooner or later, you're gonna make everybody else around you take you seriously. And that's kind of what I've done.
What if I don't want to be serious, though? What if I just want to be goofy and silly all the time?
There's nothing wrong with
like Peter Pan.
You can be Peter Pan, but I mean, no one will take you seriously.
Well, I've already got half of the outfit made, though.
Oh, okay, so listen, if you now, I will say this: if you do make the outfit and you actually are flying on a stage, I would pay to see that. I would legitimately pay to see that. It's like,
see, I told you that's going to be my thing.
You're gonna fly. Are you gonna wear the hat? Are you gonna have the hat?
Well, it wouldn't be right without the hat.
Okay, I'm making sure, man, because you're going in on this. You're going in all the way. So wait. So question. Ooh, I got this is an important one. So is your Tinkerbell like classic Tinkerbell, or is it gonna be more like Navi from Legend of Zelda?
Oh, I would have to say Legend of Zelda.
Okay. So just do me a favor. Just do the world a favor. Only one. Hey, listen. That's it. After that, no one.
Oh.
I'm just saying, man. It won't. I mean, I wanted to punt. That's the only. Like, I get why it was there. It was fantastic to have Navi help you, but there's a point where it's like, hey, no, I know what I'm doing, Navi. Shut up.
I think that drove everyone crazy.
Yes, it did. It drove everyone. Although, honestly, okay, so us old schoolers, that it's either Ocarina of Time or Link to the Past. Which one's your favorite? Don't worry, there's no wrong answer here.
Yeah, I know, but that's a hard choice.
Yes, it is.
Maybe Link to the Past.
Yeah, for me, it's Link to the Past, and then 1A is Ocarina. Like, it's like, so, you can only play those two Zelda games for the rest of your life. Okay.
Oh, it's like those little posts that people make, that you can only eat one food forever. What is it? And And I'm like, man, obviously pizza, and I would have a happy life.
Yes.
I would just be a happy guy.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Whereas me, it's like, you can only play one of those two Legend of Zelda games. You can never play another Legend of Zelda game. Sure?
Yeah, it's okay. I'm good.
I'm good. It's like, aren't you gonna? I mean, I'm gonna be sad about some of the newer ones, because some of the newer ones are pretty sweet. But again, the nostalgia feels and there's the fact that the games are just so well put together. You're like, I get a good experience here. I'm in. It works.
Hey, I've got a question about your board game you're working on.
Yeah.
So, how are you gonna have it produced? Like,
well, right now, what I'm thinking of doing. This is kind of what I'm thinking. I'm going to be play testing the game probably for another few months, just as many different outlets as I can, as many different opportunities as I get, and then after that, I'll do there's a board game, like you can build prototype board games. There's an online one. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. The Brent Nichols podcast talks about that, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a prototype board game with all the stuff, right? And then I'm thinking about doing it as a Kickstarter release, right?
Oh, okay.
Right. I'll have a complete.
Oh, wait. Now, do you know much about Kickstarter and Indiegogo?
I know a lot more. I know a lot about Kickstarter. I'm not so much about Indiegogo. Indiegogo, from what I've done GoFundMe for my teeth, but so I know that's not the model I want. GoFundMe, I know this one guy. I'm not going to name names here because again I'm not here to make fun of people, but he decided that he wanted to be a writer, and he decided that he was going to do his entire career via GoFundMe, and I looked at that. It's like, I'm not taking you seriously. And because you're not that you're not writing good stuff or not writing good stuff, because I really have no idea. But the way you're approaching this is very no. Kickstarter. I look at Kickstarter. I've seen do very well. I have friends like Travis Hansen, Dirk Manning, Call It Turner, John Fleming. They've done amazing things on Kickstarter. I don't know if like the first board game one's going to do well, but it's much like everything else. You just go out there and you produce projects, you deliver projects on a regular basis. People notice, because that's a big thing with Kickstarter is you have to be able to deliver what you promise to deliver, right? And everything else is that's it. Like, it really comes down to your integrity. You can be late. But the other cool thing about Kickstarter is it is possible that you're late. People will forgive you for that as long as there's a reason, right? But you have to. What's about is, okay, I want to, like, if you're doing a novel, I don't think Kickstarter is a very good model for that, because a novel, once the novel's done and you do the T-shirt and you do maybe some buttons. What else can you... I mean, you can do Skype calls and things like that. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're ultimately just building everything around a book, right? Whereas comics, something with a lot more of a visual appeal to it, I feel Kickstarter does a better job for that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. And I really don't... I know I've donated to a few people's GoFundMe accounts that, local people that we actually know that are going through hard times and needed a leg up. But I don't know much about Kickstarter at all, so I was just kind of curious. But I think that would be kind of cool if you're crowdfunding it, and then what happens? Everyone who donates gets one of the board games, kind of thing.
Well, it depends on, there's tiers, right? So there's like the $1 thank you for donating tier. Which, believe it or not, I think every Kickstarter should have, because there are people that will just give you $1. Why not? So for me, I'm thinking $1 is the tier for the thank you. $5, maybe like a print, like a digital print of the cover. $10, probably 10, 12, something like 10, 15 bucks, the actual book. $20, $30, depending on how much it costs to make the game, board game. $45, you get the board game book combo. So you got options for everybody, and then bonus stuff like T-shirts, extra game pieces, sprinkled throughout. I think I'm going to do a random prank call to anybody in Canada or the United States.
I like that.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to do that. And anybody, doesn't matter who it is, I'll do it. Right? And then I'll that kind of stuff is what you think. You try to make the big thing about this too is you make it fun. So I did a Dr. Seuss off at When Words Collide. So I made grown adults do Fox and Socks and Say or Don't Say in different accents. It was their idea.
Oh, I like that. That's fun.
Oh, are you kidding? It was ridiculous. There's a Valley Girl off in Fox and Socks. It was hilarious. There was Fox and Socks.
Please tell me you recorded that.
I did not record that one. The only reason why I didn't record that one was because no, that's a recess panel. This was very deliberate. This was a panel for people because you do a writers' conference, right? This is a panel where there's no pressure whatsoever. Like, you come in, you have fun, you leave, everything's left there. It's one of the few times I was like, and this again, and I might next year. I'm probably going to record it because I have a concept called Stitch and Seuss, and that is I'm going to take a whole bunch of Dr. Seuss books, put them on the table, and go, here are the rules. You can read from any book you want, but you have to do it differently. You have to slam it, rap it, sing it, do a different voice, something. I think this is going to be hilarious when I do it. I think it's going to be awesome. But that I might record because that just seems way too good. But and Von Lee suggested I do teams.
Oh man.
But
You're in Canada, right?
What?
You're in Canada, right?
Yeah.
What part of Canada are you in?
I'm currently in Calgary, Alberta, but I used to live, just to give you an idea, Windsor, Ontario, which is literally across from Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I was wondering if you were anywhere near me, but Alberta is way on the other side, isn't it?
Oh yeah, but I do stop by there. You know, I'm not that far from you when I'm visiting, so it's not inconceivable if I decided to say there was a convention like, Grand Rapids or Novi, or because they're not that far from me.
Yeah.
Right? It's not inconceivable for me to disappear up for like a day or two to hang out. Really isn't. Because it's not that far. Like, Michigan is not exactly as big as Alberta. So. It's just.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got to meet up and go do a panel somewhere sometime. I think we'd have a blast.
Absolutely. Close on, though. Just close on.
Well, no close on. And I'll bring, but I'll tell you what, I'll bring some magical medicated brownies, and then you won't have any fear about your clothes.
I'm very torn on this. Not so much of doing it, just to where I'll wake up in the next morning. I mean, that kind of frightens me. But
I'll take good care of you.
I have a tear in my eye now, ladies and gentlemen. Take good care of you.
Man, do you remember that time when you fell in love with a girl online and were sending her all sorts of naughty pictures and it didn't turn out so good?
Yeah, was that you?
You totally got catfished.
Yes, I did. I think Mr. I think Mr. Jason, we do have a decent interview here. Excellent. But reiterate, go back to being serious for just a minute. I'm super glad you're coming out of your comfort zone. I'm glad you're doing the things you want to do, and I sincerely hope that it takes you to where you want to go. And one day you might be that guy to interviewing the celebrities someday.
Well, I'm really fortunate to have good friends that and helping to push me there, and you're definitely one of them. You know, you and Timmy Chisma are really really helped push me out from where I was to where I want to get going.
Yeah, and you'll get there. You will. It may not be overnight, but you'll get there. So why don't we end the interview on a couple notes here? Should talk about talk about what's out for you right now, and should probably talk a little bit about Spilling Ink too, since we did mention it quite a bit here. So I'll go with that. And how can people find you?
All right. Well, Spilling Ink is a talk show that David Jones and Katie Salidas and J.E. Johnson and all run, and we're like you, but we're not like you. You know, your show is a really cool, fun conversation, and it's not necessarily centered around writing. Spilling Ink is more centered about kind of getting in depth with authors and finding their tricks of the trade and what they're doing to market their books and things like that. So it's supposed to be an educational show, but you know, there's a lot of entertainment value in there as well. So that's what
he wears bells, ladies and gentlemen. He wears bells.
Well, I did wear giant bell earrings at one point. That was good, and you can always expect some goofy animals on the show as well. And as far as me, I write paranormal thrillers and horror. I write for Evolved Pop. I have 5 books that are available right now. You can find them on Amazon or anywhere you shop online, and just look for Jason Lavelle. And yeah, they're a lot of fun. I like stuff that is grounded in the real world, but has a little bit of supernatural or paranormal element to it. Yeah, so that's what I write. I like to scare people. I like to scare myself. Maybe make a few readers cry. That's always good. That's a bonus. And if you are on InstaFreebie, which is now Prolific Reads, is that right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. If you're on Prolific Reads at all, you could find a few of my short stories on there. Again, just look for Jason Lavelle. And yeah, there's some good stuff on there. I didn't skip on the good stuff.
All right.
And that was my conversation with Jason Lavelle. I want to thank Jason very much for being part of the show. Check out his books. He has a lot of them available. Definitely go to his Amazon page. Get his 3 stories. He talks about the end. He's a really good writer. But he's also a great host. Spilling Ink is a really cool show. He brings authors to talk about different creative aspects of the field. And him and Katie have made a great show. You should definitely check it out when it's up. Beyond all that, yeah, man, I got a lot I could want to talk about. I want to take a quick moment here and explain kind of the future. This podcast has grown a lot in the last year, ever since the Aurora nomination, but also just things I've been doing. It seemed like I've always been inspired by doing this show, because no matter who my guests are, whether I've loved the majority of the people that have been on this show, but even the ones I didn't like, it takes great guts to go out there and say, here I am doing my thing. I've always been inspired by that, and it seems to me that my listeners, and I can say that it's like my listeners are inspired as well. And like I said, it blows me away even after all this time to think that maybe, just maybe, people listen to my show and listen to me ramble on and on. I've done 210 of these, but you kind of take these for granted so much, that the work you put in. So I want to thank everybody real quick for where I've been and where I'm going. Like I said, I'm on all 3 platforms. I'm going to be talking about sponsors. 2019 is going to be a really cool year. I really promise that. But for now, I just want to say thank you to each and every person that's listened to this episode so far, to this series, has believed in me. I appreciate it. Thank you for where I've been and for where I'm going. And that will do it for another episode of Just Joshing. If you want to support the podcast, you can do so a number of different ways. My podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Feel free to listen, download, and just deal with the various episodes I have. If you like them, talk about them, spread the word. If you don't like them, that's cool too. I'd rather you didn't spread that word, but if you must, you must. Either way, I thank you very much for the opportunity to listen. I have a YouTube channel, Joshua Penteloresco. Past episodes are there. My books, The Watcher, Storm Dancer, Wandering God, are available through MiraClePublishing.com, also through Kobo and Amazon, or anywhere else books are sold, either electronically or brick and mortar. However you like it, you can find it. beyond all that, guys, thank you very, very much for listening to this episode. Stay inspired out there. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, or just don't get caught, okay? I want to hear you guys. I want to hear more about you guys, and I appreciate everything you guys have done for me, so thank you very, very much. All right? You have a good one.
Josh.